because we have just hybrid. No worries.
We have time for people to come. My
Yeah,
end, this is.
yeah, they're more in the back than they're in the front, like always. Do you want to use this? No?
No, this is fine. I can.
Welcome back. We are continuing now with a totally different topic regarding it's about the mobile and performant actually mobile development. And of course you can ask the questions on our bots every time during the presentation or after it, and that's it. Mohamed, you can carry on.
It's working?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Nah, I hear myself. Hi everyone, and thank you for your time, investing your time in attending my session. And I'm going to talk about performance. We have performance everywhere. In front-end engineering, back-end, big data, in any technology we have to consider performance. Because if you would like to scale, to serve your customer, you have to consider the performance. Even if you find it trivial, for just milliseconds. Milliseconds plus another milliseconds plus milliseconds, it will get some minutes and even more minutes. So we have to tweak this. Today I'm going to talk about performance for web solutions and at the same time for hybrid mobile solutions because they are the same in nature. It's just HTML, JavaScript and CSS. With differences, yes, there is an architecture difference, but when it comes to performance, you have to consider some common techniques. I'm not going to talk about all the performance technique, but I grabbed to you the best practices that we have in our company and in consultancy, top 10, and the other code optimization as we are going to see. So if you put this as a checklist when you develop, by the time you will memorize these steps, and it will be by nature your coding is performance-wise coding and the same like security. So it's because it's the security and performance, it's some checklist you have to memorize. When you practice it, you already like object-oriented concepts. So you're always writing performant code and secure code. This is very most important in the market. Okay, so we are going to talk about this topic. My name is Mohamed Taman. My day-to-day job is enterprise architect for large-scale project and consultancy. At the same time, I'm leading the innovation and R&D in e-finance company. It's basically we are serving the government and building large-scale government for our people. It's a private company, but publicly funded. So it's startup big because we have millions of pounds invested in the company, so we have to work hard to serve large scale project. It's not just small project, then we scale it from the ground. We have to work on a very large scale. On the other side, community based, I'm Java champion. I'm involved with JDK creation, Java EE technology. Just we have released Java SE 9. And I encourage every one of you just trying this, an amazing release. And you will find all my talks and the presentation and everything on my links. I'm involved in the community, speaking worldwide. I'm author of Getting Started JavaFX Essentials, Mastering Java SE, and I have been reviewed Getting Started with Oracle. I'm working with big data, cloud computing, and the other stuff. So you can ask me whatever you want. So how to find me? You can find me on these links. So you can take a picture if you would like. So any question, you are welcome at any time in my mail and my Twitter. I'm frequently tweeting. So please, you are welcome. I'll get this slide back again at the end. So actually, this presentation is tweaked to be run on mobile devices. So most of the code in the presentation, you can try it on your tablet. But I'm running here. So if I'm on tablet, I can take a picture for you. But when I click on snap picture, it will tell me camera is not supported in your platform. So I think that I'm going to take a selfie with you guys. Are you ready? Ready? It's hard, but I'm trying. Say cheese or hello. Okay, thank you. What do you think? Its title is slow. Why? Something like this. It's slow. Somehow you have links for product, and when you click the link, you should get all the UI from the server to attach it to your DOM, right? This is very slow. Why? We will see. Another issue, we can tweak this by JavaScript. Okay, the previous one was direct, so you have to wait for the server to get all the DOM creation and the page structure to you, and you append it to your DOM. It takes time. So we can tweak it a little bit with with jQuery, so async calls, so you can have some sort of waiting, but the same problem happens because you're waiting for the content and just you append the content. What is the problem here? Is appending the content to the DOM. Each time you try to remove or add new elements to the DOM, it's very harmful because we will get in touch with some performance issue with something called reflow. Memorize this, and I will talk to this later on. Reflow means, in short, rebuild and re-evaluate all the DOM structure, which take much time. So we have to avoid something like this. Don't generate the UI on the server. Never. Where to do it? Create the UI using JavaScript and the frameworks. So how to get the structure? No, get the data. Only the data. This is one of the integration rules, just getting the data from the backend only, and you create the UI. It's very scalable for your front-end engineering. Why? You can change the UI at any time, change the themes. You are not relying on the backend to send the structure for you. And please, we need to add a button. We need to change the font. The backend guys, I don't like front-end engineering stuff. It's your responsibility. So they just give me the data I would like to show, and you are responsible for the whole UI. Insert and remove, for sure, view into from the DOM as needed, not frequently. We will see why. This is the first rule. It's clear? Go next. Or most of the framework using single page architecture even, because if you try to create everything from JavaScript, you're removing a page, bending a page. We have some single structure page like jQuery do this, AngularJS do this. Why? Because it caches all at the first time it's running and caching all the UI. Then you just jump to the view. It's just switching between view. You are not going to reload again the pages from different fragments or even external resources. It's for one time loaded, cached, and just by animation you go from div to div or section to section. It's more faster than the others. One of the most common thing, networking problems. What is the problem of the networking? Something like this. What do you think? What is the problem here? I know that Mike says make you not engageable, but try to engage with me. What is the problem here? It's very simple. I'm trying to get a list of cities. Think it's normal. We have cities, we have countries, we have list of phone numbers, list of employees, whatever the list is. But sometimes most of the list is static. Do you have in Belgrade new cities every month, for example? You have new country every 1 year even. So cache this data, try to cache. Don't rely on getting all the data from the back end. Try to get it from the first time, cache it on your front-end engineering stuff and HTML5. Thanks for HTML5 that provide us with caching APIs like local storage, you have session storage, you have DB storage, either it's web SQL or indexed DB, so you can store all the data and cache and preferences in your front end on the user level, even on mobile or on web. That's normal. So you are just getting the dynamic data. Even try to get some algorithms to add to cache this dynamic data. So we have to avoid anything getting to the back-end hit, like when you are back-end developer, you are trying to minimize hitting the database at the back-end for performance issue, right? You are trying to create views to get the customized instead of going to force 3 tables to get the data, something like this. So we have to avoid network access by doing what? We have local storage, and you can store, it's indexed based, value based, and you have databases, and you can do this in the files. Whatever you can, and imagine this data could be stored and retrieved from the client side, do this. Cache dynamic data. Don't rely on getting all the data from the back end. How to cache the data? Sometimes we're creating in-memory data grid, sometimes in files. Try to make adapters. Adapters hide the implementation, so you can switch between the cache. Either it's in files, either it's local storage, either they are on the cloud, on whatever. It just, for you, as a front-end engineer, a developer, you're just using the adapter. And at any time, you can change the caching algorithm from inside, as your API is very unique. Very important. If you have 1,000 records, are you going to get all of the 1,000 records to just a few to show on your mobile device or tablet, 10 of them? No, I'm going to get 10 only. And next 10 by 10, like Twitter. When you swipe for Twitter, it show you just 5 tweets. When you flip it again, it get the other 5 tweets. And instead of waiting for the 1,000 and cache all of this, we have memory issue here on the client side. At the same time, waiting a long time to get all of these data from the server, right? So you have to limit or your result. I'm showing 5, I'm going to get 5 by 5, 10, 10 by 10. Or you even scale because it's mobile. You can detect the agent, and based on this, you can get the limit. Something like this. Okay? Clear? The other one, which most of us, I think that most of you is very professional developer, not doing this, but even if we normally would like to add functionality, would like to use something for future. We might use it. Don't consider this. You have to limit dataset widths. What does it mean by widths? We have the long rows, we have eliminated, but what is the difference? What is the mean by widths? Do you remember the first list? The first list show only 3 items, right? Three items, maybe the title and the photo, but the product has many other attributes. You don't have to get all of these attributes. Your data set just come the product with the 3 attributes. Okay, if the person going to click on the product, I have to show all the data. Get it from the server. Because sometimes consider that you're getting too much data and attributes in your set. Even if there are 10 records, okay? What if in terms of network bandwidths and at the same time memory, getting, for example, 20 property of each product, or getting 3 property of each product for the same 10? It will be much reduced size in terms of bandwidths, because this is cost. Bandwidths mean cost. If you are running in cloud computing or something like this, or even internet user busy, normally your user will run out of data. Your mobile application is data hungry, eating too much bandwidth from the guy. What is this shit you are working with? I'm not going to use it, I'm going to use another service. So this is small tweaks, but it's just not performance if you consider the business issues. And bandwidths. Bandwidths mean smaller data means faster transformation over the medium. It's clear? Okay. Other issue is we normally see in applications that when you open, it's getting some useful stuff, but it's white page. It's working. Sometimes it's white without any notification. It's bad UX. It's bad UX experience. So let's add some loader so that the customer can understand there is something going on behind the scene and I'm getting the data, so he's waiting. Such things is done by you are waiting for the data to display the UI. Don't do this. Just you can. How many of you using Facebook, Twitter? All of you, I know. All of us. Have you ever seen when there is a slow network, you get the posts with images like it's not an image, it's like a placeholder? It's something more UX. You know that there is something happened, but they are preparing the posts for you, but the post is ready, and some GIF doing the animation stuff, and there is placeholder for the images and the text, something like this. Then show you. They show you the view and the interface. Then when the data it comes, feed the interface, so you can see there is much UX intelligent, and for sure it's performance-wise for the point of view of the customer, it's much better than just showing white page, waiting for the data to view UI. So to solve such a problem, you don't wait for the data to view your UI. So you have to do something like this. View your UI, then append the data when it comes. Right? We love animations. We love doing fancy stuff for our application. No problem. But be aware that when you're using something like this, or even some sort of animation using JavaScript, JavaScript is running on the processor, not the GPU. So don't consider something like this because it's mathematical equation. Any equation in mathematics using JavaScript as a programming language runs on the CPU. So how to solve such a problem? You have to use something like CSS transitions, which comes with CSS3 and HTML5, which is all the transitions and transformation runs on the GPU by default, not the CPU. So you leave the CPU for intensive operating system calls and calculations, and the GPU hit them, most of the GPUs, because they are produced for this, for graphic, and most of the complex algorithms running. How many of you heard about blockchain? Blockchain miming is this. In short term, miming, you have to have a very aggressive platform, like not very big server, but very good GPU. So why all the mining algorithm and the hashing algorithm run on GPU? Because it's very faster, more than the CPU. So you have to work with it, and you will see if you doing some animation with JavaScript directly, and you transform it for CSS and transformations, you will find how much it's faster than the normal way. If we have something like this, let's take an example. And this is something worker. I'm doing some fancy stuff and center and on left. This is some sort of, I have different views, but it's hidden behind the scene, and I can show them based on the navigation. This is the same concept like single page architecture. But most of us, or most of the UX engineer or UI, implemented something like this. You have some page position, top, left, width, and then trying to play with left, right. This is transformed to mathematical equations, which is run as a CPU. If I would like to take the leverage of CSS3, you have to transform it for something like this. Using all the transformation, transform translates 3D. Translates 3D functions intentionally went to GPU to run, which is more faster than the basic animation. So you have to do this. Especially this will appear much on mobile devices because limited resources. You are not going to see this on desktop application, or because you have a very great architecture. But when it comes to mobile devices and the varieties, you will notice the performance issues. Interesting. Even the scrolling, use the native scrolling, which call the API internal scrolling of the platform, which is Android, iOS. This is mimic the native scrolling, which was more performant than the using scrolling by normal CSS. We have experience in the clicks, especially in Android. There is from version 4 and above, they solved this problem, but we have some customer running from version 4.4 and less. The problem is when you click on the button on the browser or inside the application, inside Android applications, it will wait for 300 milliseconds to get, are you going to tab or double tab? If it's single tab, it will end and do the action. If it's double tab, it will take the to suppress for the action and running as a double tab. This is not a good way because you have to wait. Sometimes you press back, you have to wait a little bit and get back. This is HTML-ish problems. We don't like back means back. Don't wait for 300 milliseconds. And this is, I can try on mobile devices, but if I have, you're not touch enabled devices, so you can on click 0 milliseconds. When you click, you will see the number of milliseconds took to respond to this action. Okay. So avoid clicks. Here I have implemented the solution, and I will tell you about it. Just JavaScript library, which is override the normal behavior and suppress the tab, the click or double click after you just tab end, not just in the tab begin and waiting for the other. On tab end, which is touch, remove your finger, it's end, it's click, double click. So it responds very fast to your actions. So you can try it. At the project on GitHub, you can clone it and just wrap it and run it on your mobile or tablet. So this is the API that you can get from GitHub and use it with your application. Interesting. What is this? Some links showing some images. Interesting. And each one show image. Very slow when it comes to fancy UI. A lot of icons, a lot of images. You are using for 50 icon, for example, and the logo and different images. Consider something like Amazon. How much displaying or how many pictures are displayed in Amazon, and with different scales, with different icons, even the buttons. The buttons are images. So this is very slow. Why very slow? Because you have to wait for the server to deliver all the images to show. It's bandwidth and depends on the size of the image. It's fast or it's slow transformation over the medium. So how to solve something like this? Image optimization, one of the important performance issues you have to consider. So we have to optimize in different ways. You can use spreadsheet. How many of you heard about spreadsheets? How do you know how we use it? It's normal. We have one sheet including all the icons in one image, and there is specific size of each icon, okay, with the resolution, and there is a spacing, 5 pixels between each image and the image. How we can use it from CSS? We can implement it something like this. We have icon with width 14 pixel and height 14 pixel, and this is the whole image. Moving from image to image just by background position, and the second image is background position -24, and you can, you know, it's from the index 0 to 0, and you can moving and taking 14, 14, 14. So you are just showing it. It's get all the image, but you are just showing the intended icon. When you load the data from the server, it's only one image, and you can cache it even. It's by default cached instead of 550 image. Okay. Another tweaking that you have to use the right size. How? Sometimes I found people that they have 1000 by 1000 picture and use it and scale it down by the HTML. Imagine it's 1 meg, you scale it, it's 1 meg, you scale it in another place, it's 1 meg, it gets transformed as a 1 meg each time. No, scale it down. If you use it like icon, okay, it's 100 by 100. If it's large like Amazon do, it's if it's a book or if it's larger, they have many different sizes of the picture. They show it in the right place and at the right time. Why? Bandwidth, size, and at the same time, the caching for this. It's always bandwidth and size, which is also affect performance. Okay. Hosts, sometimes it's a scalability issue, because when you don't find your images, you have a lot of images or something like Instagram or something like this, you have to scale down and put all of your data where inside scalable or content management system, and you reference this content management system can take care of all your images and scalable, and whenever you went down, you can access your images whenever you want. So they are taking care of the scalability and everything. Avoid using 404. Do you remember when I told you that how Facebook doing all the UI stuff? There is placeholders. Do something like this. You have the pick, okay, and you always have no pick as a placeholder. Don't show the cross, which is get the feeling of bad experience. Okay. When you use CSS, try to limit shadows and gradients, because it's very harmful. Why? Because of the reflows. You're going to see what is the reflows. Try to avoid use something like this, but if you need it, you can use it, but not too much, which is box shadow, border radiuses, gradients, and alignment, because all of them trying to restructure the DOM again, because left to right, it will reorder all the content again. It will take much time reordering. Do you understand the idea? It's reflow. Reflow. What is reflow? I'm going to talk about this. Minimize reflow. The most tricky word I always told you about, reflow. What does it mean by reflow? You can, on your browser or even your device, enable something like show me page fragments. So you can see what is UI mainly redrawing too much, which is very aggressive for your GPU and performance issues when showing content. This is mean reflow. Reflow for web, it comes when redrawing the DOM. Redrawing the DOM means validation for the whole structure, adding the DOM, applying CSS from the ground. All of this take time and very harmful, and also power consuming and computation consuming. So we have to minimize reflows as much as we can. But what if we changing the content dynamically, changing the content based on the response? Try this is with the color. We'd like to apply another colors, different images. How to do this? There is a technique to do this. So to minimize reflow, we have to reduce the number of DOM. Sometimes when you do some UI using tools, okay, you find your content very, very crowded with spams, divs, Ps. If you restructure this again, you just need 4 divs and even 3 paragraphs and some sort, because the tools is not intelligent. When you do just color for the font, it adds spam. We can do CSS to do all of this and customize our CSS to make the UI is very beautiful without adding a lot of content. A lot of content mean a lot of calculation and structure validation, so which is lead to reflows. It's very hard. Minimize access to the DOM. Try to batch your changes at one time, not adding them one by one. So you have to minimize. If you need to, okay, batch it. Not to add or insert from the DOM one by one, because insert or remove means recalculation. Also, update elements offline. I'll show you this how. Avoid tweaking layout using JavaScript is very harmful. Try to use CSS or batching by using styles. Batch your DOM changes, especially when updating styles. How? This is very slow. Do you know why? It's always, I'm touching one element, which is header, back button. I'm applying on click an event. Okay, this is good. And then we're doing some colors and text decoration and adding the source for this. This is lead for 5 flickers on the screen. Each one, go to the DOM, apply it, recalculate it, then the next statement, do the same, do the same, do the same. 5 reflows happens, which is very glitch. It's not clear. Maybe we can faster doing something like this. This is called offline, but you get the header and you apply the batches and your content one by one. So you're taking the element of the DOM and trying to apply the batches, then update it. More faster, you may think that this statement is very fast. It's slow. Why? You are applying width is a function, height is a function. Each CSS is called on the DOM. So jQuery using it's get the item. First apply the width, recalculate the DOM, then apply the height, then CSS, then the other CSS, then the final CSS. Lead to 5 flickers. Don't think that chaining of the function will lead to less flickering. No, because it's function, it has to apply fully and return back, then you apply the other. Return back the DOM or the element and you apply it back, apply it back, apply it back. To do, this is not batching, it's one by one. To do batching, do something like this. It's one call, okay? Do all of this CSS at one time. It's one flicker. So you reduced 5 to be 1. Did you get the idea? Very interesting. This is even much faster and scalable. Why scalable? We have to consider the architecture, we have to consider how we can scale, how we can change without affecting a lot of code. Why? Because all of the changes are hidden in CSS class. And you can at any time add another attributes on the fly without affecting the code. So this is only line, and on your class you can add another animation, you can remove animation without touching the code. Did you get the idea? And it's faster. Why? Because the class attaches to some properties and it applies as a batch. So this solution is much better than the other one, which is this. Because why? Because it's scalable and the same fast as it is. Really, do you need that framework? I'm going to use Bootstrap with all the Java. I'm using Bootstrap just only for the beauty and the responsiveness, how it is on the devices. But are you using the JavaScript framework for this? No. So why you load it? It takes much computation and memory. So you have to consider, study the characteristic of each JavaScript library you use. Try to get some, I'm using Mostage for templating, I'm using just Bootstrap CSS for laying out, and I can customize not all the CSS. I'm using, customize the framework to not use, optimize it as much as you can. This is your product. So you always don't use full stack framework just because you like small pieces of it. No, like transition or UI component mod, all of us, even including me, love to do this. It's fancy, okay. Getting started, you have to use all of this. No, I'm going to study the characteristic, see the performance of the memory profile. Then no, I'm going to take even sometimes I can consider the full UI and taking some CSS from the original one and creating mine and use my customized framework. And you have to, as I told you, you have to understand the performance characteristic of each piece, because we have to use, by the time you are going to use a lot of libraries. If you consider adding libraries over the libraries, about how much it loads, especially the files, it's in sequence, not in parallel. It's the loading time, the caching time, the changing, the performance, the memory. When it comes to devices, you have to take care of the memory, the battery, the processing power. The number one and the last one we did our application. It's very interesting. It's good. On my machine, it's very fast, but we have to test it against. Okay, your machine is very powerful enough to run your application. On mobile device, you have to test on mobile devices, different mobile devices, emulators, and even for web and HTML, you have a lot of tools. For Hyper Solution, you have a lot of tools. Something like Chrome Dev Tools that you can have what event, how the file is loaded, if they are in parallel, how much they are, the length, the size, okay, and you can find the frames, the reflows, how many reflows happen. You can find the memory profile about the performance about your system, and all the network access your application made, try to minimize it, the size of the data, you can tweak it. I can use such tools. For reflow and framing per second or something like this, you can show force accelerators component to show composite layers, borders. So how many layers you have, okay, show frame per seconds meter. Is it fast enough or very slow? How many reflow happen? Which part of the components redrawn too much and taking my application to be the bottleneck? So you can minimize accessing. You can see what happens behind the scene when your application is running on your web application or on the mobile devices or even on the simulator or emulators. There is on-device debugging, which is very important. You can use this plugin. It's installed. It's on Safari and most of the browsers, which is you can run your application from inside the app and you can hook debugging and you see what's going on in real time on your application, not just on emulator and simulators. Okay. Do you know what is the difference between simulator and emulator? There is a big difference. That simulators, it's tweaking and simulation for the software on the same architecture. Who's used simulator? iOS platform and macOS, they have the same architecture in terms of hardware. So you are just simulating the iOS, the watch, the tablet operating systems on the same hardware that's running on all devices. When it comes to Android, you have to emulate the hardware to get the application transform into specific hardware and specific JVM like Java. Simulator will be much faster than emulators, but we have tweaks. We have HMax or something like this that can you run your emulator more faster. Don't rely on your emulator simulator for performance. Just for testing, is the UI consistent? There is a button in the place. The framework is drawing good. For performance, you have to test on real mobile devices. I experienced this. The behavioral simulator maybe is much faster because it's my laptop. It's different from the real device. So you have to test on many devices as you can to get the real performance and the real problems happens. This is some general tweaks for your software. Okay, this is very most important. This is 5-top optimization. You can do it in Scala, Java, JavaScript, whatever. The concept is the same, but I'm trying to get it with JavaScript. So try to memorize this stuff. It's performance-wise coding. It's something like tweaking your code. What is the problem with something like this? We're using a lot of expression inside for loops. It's not recommended. You have to do it fast. Okay, calculate your fixed stuff outside the for loop instead of calculating it every time you loop. It's like repeated expression with the same result I computed for 10 times with it, which is useless. It's harmful for performance and computation. So take it outside. It just will lead to 10, for example, based on variable. Then take this variable, put it, it's evaluated to 10. So you don't have to re-evaluate a lot. Limit your calculations inside the for loop. It's very important. Another one, something like this. Why it's very slow? Did you see something strange here? There is a lot of repetition. You will find a lot of mathematical calculations the same, every place, the same. To solve something like this, it's very easy. It's much reduced. So you can use the same calculation, you can consider it a new variable and use this variable with the result in other calculations. So don't make expression. Did you figure out why? It's repeated expression means evaluated many times with the same value, which is useless. Cycle time on the processor means performance, especially if you are working to mission critical piece of software like embedded systems, like switches, which is need every millisecond in your performance. Try your best to organize your if-else statement. If you need to use if-else statement, put the most likely visited one and the most case at the top. Then the least visit and least mostly like at the bottom. Why? Because the compiler goes all through. It will evaluate, is this is the case? No. Is this is the case? No. Is this is the case? No. Is this? That's it. Okay, what is this? Is the last one is the most likely visited one. The compiler have to visit all of the 3 other or 5 or 10 branches. So you have to organize. Okay? You have to organize. We don't have something like map-like in JavaScript, but you can do something like this. Indices. Can be something like indexing, and you have a function. You get the index by the most famous ID, the name, and instead of searching the whole content for each record for the special properties. So you can give me employee number 10. Okay, here is the full data. And instead of recursively visiting all the records and searching, and this is the first name, last name, the ID, it's taking time. So you can take the power, the hardness of the indices in the JavaScript, something like this. Finally, if you can replace your if statement with a switch case, it's much better. Because switch case is a fixed cases. It just when they get the variable, it go to the case directly. It's not visiting all of them. So it's for compiler and performance wise, it's much better, faster than using if else. If you can try to replace, you have to replace. Consider this. This is the final one. So we have talked that you don't have to generate your UI on the backend server. Limit your network access by caching, by limiting the result length and width. Don't wait for the data to view your UI. Use hardware accelerations. Avoid clicking, especially for mobile devices. Optimize your images. Scaling down and right sizes. Use spreadsheets. Limit shadow and gradients, which harm the reflow. And consider any framework you're using. At the same time, minimize browser reflow and test and tweak your code. So that's all about the most top 10 performance keys I have to tell you about. So I hope that you enjoyed my session. And if you have any questions, we have 1 minute. And by the way, I'll be here today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow for the after party. If you would like any question, you can ask me. At the same time, I'm sorry, this is my contact. You can send me email, direct Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you want. You are welcome. I'll be happy to reply, but as much as I can, because I have a lot of requests, but I will reply because I'm planning this. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be in Belgrade for first time, and I hope to be here next time. Thank you very much for your time, and if they have any feedback, please give me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohamed, very much for being here. Okay, you cannot hear. Yeah. But that's it, because that's about time for this session. But if you have any question, come to him and ask. Okay? There were questions on the bot, so please come and ask.